Hey guys, welcome to this class where I'll be teaching you what kind of structure we are going to launch for our ads to test our supplement ideas. Now, usually we want to keep this as simple as possible, not to overcomplicate things. Now, there is a requirement from your end to obviously have the resources ready to launch. So this class assumes that you've built out your different angles with different creatives. So for example, if you're doing weight loss, you could be doing bloating, you could be doing a secret remedy as an angle, you could do stubborn fat, you could do diets that don't work, alternative to Ozempic. So that's what I mean by an angle, right? So we want to separate all the ad sets by a angle. So you should ideally do all your research, create your ad copy for the specific angle, and you should do your ads based on that specific angle. So that's the prerequisite before you get to this phase. If you haven't got that ready, then go back and make sure that you build out all of these resources required to launch. So that being said, if you have everything ready, what we're going to go ahead and do is create a CBO campaign. And in the CBO campaign, we're going to have 5 different ad sets. And each of those ad sets are going to have a minimum of 5 ads, maximum of 25 ads. I strongly recommend starting with image ads because that's the majority of the inventory, and it's easier to qualify a angle and qualify a specific type of ad that you can then transition into video. Because when you have so many variables in play, it'll be hard to make a video when you don't know which angle is going to work and that sort of stuff. You can try it, but I'd recommend strongly going with statics in the initial phases and then adding that down the track. The other reason I would go with statics is because they're easier to create, especially with AI. You can get a lot of output with the right tools. Now, how we want to launch is usually we want to launch with 2 times our target CPA. So how do we figure out our target CPA? So let's say we have an AOV of $100. So people usually buy 1.5 or 2 units, and it costs us $20. So that gives us $80 net. So we want to achieve a profit, right? So pretty standard profit margin is 20 to 30%. So that gives us the target of $64. So that would give us, as a budget, 128. So just to round it up, you could just do $100. And you want to run this for 3 days. Why 3 days? That's 3 times your AOV. It's also enough time to get enough data from Meta in terms of the different angles, the different ads, so on and so forth. Usually the first day will be crap anyway, and you won't get much data. So just basing it off a single day of data, it's not going to give you any information that's actionable. So we'd recommend, running at least 3 days. And what are you looking for in terms of KPIs, right? So if a ad set, so one of these ad sets, reaches 3 times target CPA with no sales, so if it reaches $200, you can turn off that specific ad set and let the spend reallocate to the others, right? that's basically what I'm looking for. Realistically, you should have a sale by 192 of campaign spend. So by the second day, you really should have a sale on one of these. Now, if you do have sales, when you reach 3 times target CPA, it shouldn't really be the end. You should really continue until 5 times CPA. So 5 times CPA, you should have sales. If you don't have sales, you got to go back to the drawing board. You can look at the things like ads, you can look at the things like Lander, make sure tracking's working, make sure page speed is fast. Go back to check all of these other variables so you can ensure that the users are getting the best experience possible. And it could simply be that the particular product may not pan out, right? So sometimes it does take a few different tests among different products or different offers to get the right formula, right? So don't get discouraged if your first campaign doesn't pan out. Like a lot of people usually takes a second or third campaign. So let's say you do get sales, 10 times target CPA, so around $500 to $600. What you're looking for is break even or profitable, right? If it's break even, I would still look at any improvements. Usually this one, looking at the lander and making sure it's congruent with the angle, right? So it's really tough to build 5 landers and ads for each of these. So initially you can test one lander across all of the ad angles, and then when you qualify one of these ad angles, you can redo the lander to be congruent with this angle. So let's say out of all the angles you tested for weight loss, the anti-GLP angle works. So don't use Ozempic, use this. It's natural. You won't have rebounds or thing. It's better for your gut health and all of this sort of stuff, right? If that angle works, then what you want to do is make sure your lander is of that angle. So it should be talking about someone going through the journey of doing the GLP, coming off the GLP, but then put the weight back on, and it's not sustainable. Whereas with this supplement, they were able to have longevity and more consistent, changing the lifestyle rather than having a hack or a fix sort of thing. So that's what would give you the congruency there, and that could change it from this to this, right? Also, there's different strategies and stuff which you can apply to get this profitable. So you could use something like a bid cap or a cost cap, which is basically a cost control to tell the auction, hey, I want you to deliver sales below this threshold, but in the initial phases we use highest volume, which I'll show you how all that works very shortly. Now, if you have $2,000 in spend, usually that's enough to qualify a product. So if it's still break even between here and here, you need to go back to the drawing board. You could, especially if you made some tweaks to try and get it profitable and it doesn't work, move on at this point, right? We want to get that success. So recap of the structure. So CBO with 5 ad sets, with setting a $100 budget on the CBO, and each of those ad sets has 25 ads for that specific angle, up to 25, minimum 5. Why so many ads? Because that is your competition. Like, you can easily spit these out with AI, and that's what everyone else is doing. Everyone's going a huge volume of ads with AI, and the more variety you have, the higher probability you have of this working. So if it's super easy to generate these with AI, why wouldn't you do that so you have the highest probability of hitting something in the auction? And having a variety of ads, so like things like news article style, doing a newspaper. You could have like the native style, so just like an image with a caption over the top. Testing all of these different styles. You don't know what's going to hit with the algorithm, right? So that's why having more diverse range of ads is very beneficial. And also, Facebook rewards advertisers with creative diversity with the newest Facebook updates. So the Adra Media has the ability to sort through millions of ads and make a split-second decision as to which one it's going to show. And if you have more inputs for it to show, there's a higher chance it's going to choose one of your ads over the other advertisers. So if some advertiser just has 5 ads and they're kind of forcing the system, not not giving the diversity, it's just going to choose the one which does have the diversity. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game. So I'm setting you guys up for success here, giving you what it takes. Not trying to sugarcoat it. It's not that hard to do with AI, so we should be able to achieve, a minimum of 25 ads or 125 at the top end. Mind you, we launch thousands of ads in days, so 300, 400, 500 in a day to be at the level that we are, right? So 8 figures and beyond in affiliate revenue per year. Okay, so that's the structure. So I'm going to switch to the second part of this, which will be over the shoulder in the ad account, showing all the things to watch out for. There is one key thing on the ad level that could make or break you, right? So I'll highlight that and give you guys the rundown of what to watch out for there.